For as long as we've had pilots up in the sky, we've had stories of strange things flying right alongside them. These unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, are one of the most persistent mysteries of our time. But what if the answer wasn't about little green men? What if it was about a fundamental state of matter that we barely even think about? Well, a pretty radical scientific paper has proposed a new theory, and tonight, we're going to break it all down. Now, that is not a line from some sci-fi movie. That's Buzz Aldrin, describing an object that was pacing the Apollo 11 crew on their way to the moon. And get this, Mission Control confirms their final rocket stage was 6,000 miles away. So what were they seeing? And this wasn't just a one-off thing. From those strange glowing orbs that WWII pilots called Foo Fighters, all the way to the now famous encounters that U.S. Navy pilots have reported, these sightings all share these bizarre characteristics: incredible speeds, impossible maneuvers, and no visible way of making them happen. For decades, these have been dismissed or just left unexplained, but a detailed scientific paper suggests we might have been looking in completely the wrong place. The answer they're proposing, it isn't biological, it's physical.
So the paper puts forward this compelling and frankly kind of mind-bending suspect for a lot of these sightings. Plasma, not a spaceship, not an alien, but the fourth state of matter itself.
Okay, so you might remember plasma from high school science class. It's what stars are made of, it's inside lightning, it's literally the most abundant state of matter in the entire universe. Basically, it's a superheated gas where the atoms have been stripped of their electrons, creating this sea of charged particles. And it turns out it can do some very, very strange things. And this is where the theory gets really interesting, because the characteristics of plasma line up surprisingly well with all these UAP reports. The paper talks about how plasmas can form these complex, stable structures that can actually grow, replicate, and self-organize. They're drawn to electromagnetic energy, and yep, they can appear as glowing, pulsating orbs. Some scientists even go so far as to call them a potential form of inorganic, pre-biological life. I know, it sounds like science fiction, but this theory is based on some incredible evidence. See, the core of this paper isn't just speculation. It's an actual analysis of official footage captured by NASA astronauts over 10 different space shuttle missions. And one mission in particular, STS-75, well, it accidentally created the perfect laboratory to see these things in the wild. So back in 1996, the Space Shuttle Columbia deployed a satellite on this crazy long 12-mile conducting tether. The whole point was to study electrodynamics way up in the ionosphere. They were basically dangling a giant power-generating cable in space. And then it snapped. But the broken cable didn't just become more space junk. Oh no, it became a beacon, pumping a continuous stream of up to 3,500 volts of electricity out into the thermosphere. And that is when things got weird.
On the next few orbits, the shuttle crew started seeing things. At first, just a few pulsating lights, then dozens, then hundreds. Hundreds of glowing objects, some estimated to be a kilometer in size, were swarming this electrified tether from all directions. And they weren't just floating there. They were behaving.
The NASA cameras caught these things gathering around the energy source, following each other, changing speed, making sudden non-ballistic turns. Some even looked like they were engaging in what the paper calls hunter-predatory behavior, chasing and intersecting other objects, and sometimes leaving a little trail of plasma dust behind. I mean, come on, that is not the behavior of ice crystals or space debris. And the paper details footage from other missions too, like STS-48, where you see these behaviors even more clearly. In one sequence, a plasma form seems to be tracking a target. It then makes this sharp turn, altering its course to intercept not just one, but a whole group of other objects. And finally, it just accelerates and appears to pierce multiple stationary targets in a row, like it's systematically moving right through them. Now, the paper explains this as a kind of energy cannibalism, driven by electromagnetic attraction, not some biological intent. But just seeing it, the visual is just astonishing. So this kind of behavior, whether it's intentional or not, it forces us to ask a much bigger question. If these plasma things can self-organize, grow, replicate, and interact with their environment in such complex ways, where do we even draw the line between living and non-living matter? The paper proposes this absolutely fascinating hypothesis. Okay, so interstellar space is filled with dust, right, including organic molecules. So step one, a plasma sucks in this dust. Step two, the powerful electrostatic forces inside that plasma twist the dust into stable DNA-like helical structures. Step three, these structures start to self-organize and maybe even replicate. And then step four, this could, theoretically, provide a pathway for an RNA world, a precursor to life as we know it, all happening inside the protective shell of a plasma cell.
And this leads to an absolutely incredible conclusion. We could be looking at a form of inorganic life. As the scientist V.N. Sidovich stated right in the paper, these self-organized plasmas exhibit all the necessary properties to qualify them as candidates for inorganic living matter that may exist in space. This isn't just some fringe idea. It's a possibility being explored by serious physicists.
Okay, so this is a wild theory. I get it. But how well does it actually explain the UAP sightings we've all been hearing about for decades? Let's put it to the test. Let's look at the evidence. Why are UAPs so often reported near power plants or during thunderstorms? Well, plasmas are naturally attracted to powerful electromagnetic energy. Check. How do they perform these impossible high-G turns with no visible engines? A British Ministry of Defense study suggested they could be buoyant, charged bodies, which would be basically inertialess. Check. Their glowing appearance? Plasmas are self-illuminated. Check. And that ability to shapeshift, which one astronaut described as looking like reflective cloth? Plasmas have no fixed shape. The theory, it checks a lot of boxes. But, and this is really important, the paper is also very clear about the theory's limits. It beautifully explains things like glowing orbs and these cloud-like shapes. But what about pilot reports of stuff like a black cube inside of a clear sphere? The plasma theory can explain the erratic flight, but maybe not the claims of advanced technology that pilots like Commander David Fravor have talked about. And it doesn't really explain sightings of what look to be solid, structured, metallic craft. And this, right here, is the most important takeaway. The authors aren't saying, hey, we've solved the entire UAP mystery. What they're doing is providing a powerful, testable, scientific framework that could explain a huge portion of these sightings without having to jump to extraterrestrial visitation. It grounds a massive part of this phenomenon in known, even if it is exotic, physics. So, what does this all mean in the end? Well, this research suggests that for decades, we may have been seeing evidence not of alien technology, but of a form of inorganic, energy-based life hiding right in plain sight. And it really forces us to ask a profound question. If life isn't just the biological, carbon-based kind we're all familiar with, if it can exist as self-organizing plasma, then what other fundamental truths about our universe have we been completely missing all along?